This isn't any regular heat. This is nuclear heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bockoven.
Yes, a great opportunity here to talk some WWE wrestling with you here on 93.7 The Ticket. It is Sunday night. It is time for Nuclear Heat, our WWE Week in Review show. I am Jake Bockoven alongside my tag team partner, Nuclear Heat contributor Augie Pena, decked out in his Eagles gears as he cheers for Philadelphia tonight. But you're missing part of the game to be here with us. Talk some wrestling.
I am. This is probably the only thing I would do that, I would miss a primetime Eagles game right now. So, but I love doing this, talking wrestling with you, and it's a fun time.
It absolutely is, and it's a good time in wrestling. I think in the WWE circles because AEW might have creative problems, or there seems to be a lot of people turning on AEW. I'll just say that. But in any case, the WWE at least is focused, has circled this Saturday as their opportunity to get Survivor Series and War Games going, and so that's what the storylines have been leading up to. The Bloodline stuff is fascinating. We can kind of get to the fifth member of War Games, both on the men's and women's side, which is probably more the overarching theme for this past week in wrestling. We'll get to plenty of stuff going on. Gunther, been looking kind of weak. We'll get to that. Cody Rhodes versus KO seems to be escalating quite a bit. LA Knight's got a new competitor for his belt. So just a lot going on in the WWE, and we'll break Raw and SmackDown down individually as well. But I want to start with kind of the headlines again of what was this week. And in two returns, hardly will get any cooler than Rhea Ripley come out and headbutt you and saying War Games. But we'll have to table that for a second, because I think still what's got the WWE universe going and talking right now is this previous SmackDown, the final member of the Bloodline came out of the back, after a very big surprise in return from the Wise Men as well. So not to hide too much of it, CM Punk was announced as the last member of Bloodline to take on the OG Bloodline. Of course, recently picked up Bronson Reed. They had their 5-4 standoff. I think it was Solo Sikoa who said, "You can either join me or die standing where you are." So pretty serious threat there. And then Paul Heyman's music hit. And of course, Solo Sikoa had put Paul Heyman out of commission for all this time. There was the call last week from Roman to Paul that was disconnected. Maybe didn't have his number. So a lot of good stuff to kind of make you wonder where Paul Heyman was going to be. He comes out and then he announces CM Punk as the fifth member. CM Punk comes out and they go out there and beat up the Bloodline and of course have a stare off between CM Punk and Roman Reigns, as they're both Paul Heyman guys, and therefore you have the connection, but not great friends otherwise. We'll just put it that way. So, what are your thoughts about the inclusion of CM Punk, the fifth member of the Bloodline? It seemed like they were really setting up Seth Rollins to kind of finish off his feud. And I don't know which one would you have preferred, but how did you like the CM Punk music hitting the Paul Heyman introduction as well? I thought was just as fun.
Yeah, I loved it. I think CM Punk is the right choice for to do this. It makes a lot of sense. Like you said, he's a Paul Heyman guy. Paul, I think the SmackDown before Paul got taken out of action, he pleaded with CM Punk to take him with him. And all that stuff. So I was excited. It was great. I didn't want it to be Seth Rollins because I didn't think that one made sense. Seth really didn't have a reason to join the War Games other than, Bronson Reed was on the other side, and that to me wasn't enough. So it was nice for that. The only person I think that would have gotten me more excited if, of course, Brock Lesnar, would have came out. The original Paul Heyman guy. I think that would have gotten an even bigger pop on that, but I'm excited to see CM Punk. And it's interesting, because they can go a couple ways with this. They can go through with it. CM Punk is on the team. They go there, and then they kind of maybe build something for later for Roman and CM Punk, or they still find a way to get Seth Rollins involved. And CM Punk took that spot. I don't know. They could spin it however they want, but we all know the rumors are, it's CM Punk and Seth Rollins. So this would be good. But I mean, it's going to be, like you said, the stare down, the custody of Paul Heyman, something like that. But I thought it was fun. And, like I said, I think the WWE universe as a whole was just happy it wasn't Seth Rollins at this point.
Yeah. And like we said before, predictable can be good in wrestling. But it's not always great. And I thought that they kind of set you up, leading you. I mean, they did the right way, right? Where it looked like it was going to be predictably Seth Rollins, and it's not. Again, still a week to go, so maybe they could make some changes. But of course, CM Punk should be able to sell some extra tickets if they have any problem doing that in Vancouver. But I thought I'm wildly entertained by it. I mean, but it kind of leads you back into where a lot of it is with the bloodline, is trying to figure out what kind of the next swerve is. I, with you, kind of agree. I mean, Seth Rollins is right in the middle of this one way or the other. I wonder, and I said it before, I thought Bronson Reed need to kind of go over in that feud with Seth. Maybe that was what we saw on Monday Night Raw. Of course, as we're talking about it, we can kind of break that down. Of course, Seth Rollins against Bronson Reed on Monday night, which led to Solo Sikoa distracting Seth Rollins, allowing Bronson Reed to get the victory there finally. So I thought that maybe would put a nice end to their feud if they decide to go that way. But it feels like with Roman, with Bronson, with CM Punk, all in the mix.
Yeah,
Seth's gonna want some part of this War Games.
Yeah, he's gonna get involved somehow, and I really hope they aren't playing us with that. Because remember, CM Punk just a month ago said he had to take time off, right? Because he nearly got axed off there. It was bad, and that's where I was kind of surprised he came back so fast. But I really hope they don't do a whole he gets attacked behind the scenes like they're doing on the women's side, and then someone's got to come in and replace him. Who could that be? Seth Rollins. I really hope they just stick with CM Punk can be in this, because I think that'd be so fun to just see all these guys in the ring together. It creates that Roman and CM Punk, can they coexist? You already got Jimmy and Jay, Jimmy isn't a big fan of Sammy still. All that fun stuff. And then I'm just going to say this on the other side. Bronson Reed, he looks right in that bloodline. He looks, I mean, that's a perfect fit for them there. So, I guess we'll have to see what they do there. Like I said, it predictability can be good sometimes, but right now we just don't want it to be the predictable lead up to it. Do this, do that, because I think it kind of turns some people away. Not us, of course, we'll still stick by it, even though it's not what we agree with there. But it for maybe some of the newer fans and things like that, that I've just been watching for the last couple months. I think you got to stick with CM Punk being here.
Yeah, or have Drew McIntyre come and attack him, and then him and Drew McIntyre get going at it.
No, we can't have a part 18, something like that.
Eighth fight for him. But I mean, we'll see. I still, as I go back on it, and you finally kind of have the answer for you, is like I agree with you. I think Bronson Reed looks menacing and good in their group, but it still just feels like they're just going by the rules that they didn't necessarily have to have 5 members of War Games. I still think this would be better. Just keep it in the family. I mean, Sammy's enough family as it is, right? So he can be there. But keep it in the family plus Sammy, I suppose. Sami Zayn, as his shirt says, I think.
Yeah.
I thought that, even if it has to be 4-4, then I think you can, you can make some sense out of it. You really wanted to, again, you wouldn't have to add Bronson Reed, but, do the joke of having Paul Heyman have to be their 5th guy, something like that. But, I guess the original bloodline had Solo in it. So, it's no matter what, I guess you're not getting the original bloodline that you would want anyways. But I still feel like that's a little bit too much of a distraction. I mean, what if CM Punk or Bronson Reed get a pin? Then what have we really fought? And, part of this, true. And I think that kind of hurts again when we talk about the women's, is kind of what's at stake, what happens if you win. And now there's just a little bit too much going on for it to be like, okay, this is for, to be the, the tribal chief. You lose that one, you just come back next Monday Night Raw. Like, well, I'm still the tribal chief, or SmackDown. Yeah,
because as you said, Roman and CM Punk, I don't think Roman can take another, pin here, and you got, the two of them on that team, and this is me, but I think the new bloodline needs this win still, to keep building the credibility. but you've just stacked one side, on that, like you said. Because I mean, CM Punk, having him come back, I don't think he's wrestled on SmackDown or a part of the brand. So this is technically, a SmackDown feud on there. I don't think you can have him be on the losing side. And like you said, you kind of back yourself in a corner because yeah, there's a lot there to unravel. And I mean, I think it could be, like I said, Roman, CM Punk kind of just go at it. They don't get along, and that causes the pin. But man, yeah, you've stacked one side, and the other side, we're still waiting for The Rock to be involved in this somehow. And I thought this maybe, the fifth member could have been the perfect time for that, but I don't know. They went with Bronson Reed and CM Punk on those sides.
Right.
So.
But like to your point, Bronson Reed and CM Punk aren't exactly on the same level. So
Yeah.
it's weird that you don't have anybody opposite Roman. They're trying to prop up Solo to be that guy. But now we have Roman and CM Punk, which here's where I might get in trouble with people who argue about two of the top 25 of all time. Roman's the top 10 guy, probably, and definitely will be by the end of his career. CM Punk, arguably top 25. I mean, and you're talking about the history of wrestling. That's a heck of a deal. And the other bloodline just doesn't have anybody in the vicinity of like top 200. I mean, these are a lot of new guys, and I know Tama Tonga was part of the Bullet Club and all that. I mean, so that you've got certain deal. I mean, you got some careers in there, but they're just, there's nowhere near the star power of Roman Reigns and now CM Punk on the same group. It's like, well, they really should win.
Yeah. I mean, I thought of this the other day, and this is the curious thing to me. Solo is the one they're trying to push to be the tribal chief, right? Mm-hmm. He is the only one, well, aside from Bronson Reed now, but even Bronson Reed won the Andre the Giant Memorial. He's done something. Solo hasn't won a championship. Mm-hmm. If you look at it, I mean, they Jacob and the other two, they, changed the tag team title. So they at least got that. And then you look on the other side, Solo's the one guy that hasn't. So, you talk about credibility there. I mean, the main guy of the new bloodline has done nothing. He won I think the NXT championship one time. So. Other than that, he's got nothing. So, and as you said, I mean, you got Jay, CM Punk, and Roman. They've got, 10 titles between them. I know Jay only's one, but they've got like 10 or 12 titles between them. I mean, yeah, it's if the new bloodline gets a win, it's great. But then, you just look at it as kind of a waste to add CM Punk there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see. I mean, Brock Lesnar or The Rock certainly would have also even more so, made it an imbalance. So very interesting there. Again, on the women's side, we learned this week that Rhea Ripley will join Bianca, Jade, Naomi, and Io Sky. Not so much maybe Jade now, but we'll get to that when we do the breakdown. Of course, opposite Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Candice LeRae, Liv Morgan, and Raquel Rodriguez for the fifth member of War Games. And the way they did this, I thought was very good. I mean, they basically had the brawl and then the old, hey, you have 5, we have 4, you're an idiot, can't count type of deal. And I was expecting Bayley to come out. Like, speaking of predictability, I was just thinking, okay, here comes Bayley. We got your kind of cookie cutter 5-on-5 match that they've been setting up for the longest time. And then Rhea returns with a mask. And not only does she make her return, of course, they told the story of Liv and Raquel. Basically, I mean, attacking with a baseball bat and stuff and having a fractured, orbital socket and all this. I mean, really bad stuff. Again, part of this just kind of riding into wrestling and made it really good. But to come out with the mask and then headbutt after, saying War Games, that's an all-time moment to me. Yeah. I thought that was absolutely a great, incredible way to do it. Now they followed that up, SmackDown with another kind of brawl. I mean, they'll do that a couple times. So I didn't think that was quite as amazing. But when we officially heard that Rhea Ripley was coming in, were you expecting of course, it's interesting because it reshapes the narrative back to kind of Liv versus Rhea, for this War Games battle.
I was just a little surprised because they've had Rhea kind of be on a John Cena type of run. She's been taking everybody out. By the way, the makeup, if she's really hurt, that thing looks nasty behind that mask. I don't know if you caught that. It's like deep purple behind that mask. So it looks really cool on that. But I was a little surprised because, like I said, they've had her on this run. And on the SmackDown side, you have your 2 world championships, right? So it's great to have Rhea come back. It makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world. But if it would have been like a Bayley, predictable on there, then you could look at it and be like, okay, this side, they're the lesser side. With Rhea, I mean, she can pretty much take on anyone herself. So it makes sense on that. I'm still excited for it. I just, I worry because as we've, said on the men's side, on the women's side, it's kind of, yeah, you have your two world champs, your two main champs on one side. And on the other side, you have, the person you've kind of built up the most. So they've kind of backed themselves in a corner on that side too.
Well, again, it goes back to, despite it being war games and all these, personalities, what does it mean to win war games?
Yeah.
Is going to be something that I'm waiting to see. Hopefully this week they can kind of put some more stakes on these battles, so you can kind of think, okay, this is a big deal. It's not just something you brush off your next appearance. But that leads kind of to our next question here, which was on SmackDown. We saw that Jade Cargill was taken out in the back. Maybe something similar. I mean, my guess would be Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez were up to the same type of thing again. That's how they attacked Rhea Ripley, and you can get kind of more heat on Liv for doing that. But it's very interesting because Bianca and Jade have been, together on their run. I believe they have the titles.
They still do.
Yeah, they have the titles. And there was an interview backstage, at least asking Nia Jax if she was part of it, and she wasn't. Not that you could take a wrestler out of word, maybe that's highlighting the fact that it ends up being her. But Bianca and Jade, of course, have recently had their battles, so to say, against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, as well as Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton. So there's a lot of kind of things to clear up and see there. And obviously that's kind of what they want to see. What's your best guess on who took out Jade? And does that take her out for the war games? Does that kind of give something of interest to her character? Does this do, is this helping Jade?
Yeah. So I think they just announced on Twitter that she's out indefinitely. So that's kind of there. So one,
writing her off.
Yeah, she's going to be written off of war games. Two, if you're out indefinitely, I think you got to give up your title or do it in the other way. You find another tag partner, something like that. It's weird. They can do something like that. But I'm going to swerve it. I know she was in a match when it happened, but they're trying to build this Bianca Jade thing, right? I mean, they've kind of had it going there because I think Jade was also in the Women's United States.
Set up to be
set up to be. Bianca, doesn't want her to get that shine, something like that. I'm saying it was Bianca that did it behind the scenes.
Oh, that'd be interesting, yeah. Before a match, before she ran out.
I mean, something like that, and then they find her later, But if it's not her, it was obviously somebody on the other side,
right?
But I think it was, or we've been talking about it. Bailey kind of needs. Okay, there's three people, so Bianca one, somebody on the other side, or Bailey, because she's kind of been out in the in the limbo there too, and she might want to insert herself. Now that we know Jade's out indefinitely, they need another member to their team, and Bailey might want a shot at it.
Kind of the old Carlito Dragon Lee.
I mean, something like that. But then that would not make sense because Io and Bailey just had their feud the last time, and they hate each other, supposedly.
Right?
Kayfabe. So then, because you saw it at the end of SmackDown. I mean, they were all happy with each other. The Jade, Bianca, Rhea, Io, and
Naomi. I think.
Naomi.
Yeah.
They were all happy. I think I saw something backstage where Rhea was carrying Io, and they were all laughing. So they're supposed to be all buddy. How can Bailey and Io be buddy? When one got kicked out of the group and, turned on each other, all that stuff. So they got to watch what they do here. If it is Bailey, it could be somebody else, but I think it's going to probably be Bailey that steps up.
Yeah, we will see it. It'll be interesting. I like that they, kind of do that, the week leading up. Like we said, we still got, by this time next week, we'll have already seen War Games, but we still have Raw and SmackDown to come ahead. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We can run through Raw and SmackDown individually. We just kind of got the headliners out of the way because otherwise we're just sitting waiting to talk about what we see happening at War Games. So we'll talk about Raw and SmackDown. We'll even give you some Survivor Series War Games predictions by the end of the show as well. You're listening to Nuclear Heat here on 93.7 The Ticket. We'll be back after this break.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
The
electrical workers of local Union 265 are now hiring licensed journeyman electricians from $32.50 to $42.50 per hour with paid benefits. And if you're looking for a new career, they're hiring apprentices at $19.50 per hour with paid benefits. Call the office at 402-423-4497 to apply. Start your electrical career today. The Mill Coffee and Tea, formerly with only 4 Lincoln locations, now 5 Lincoln locations. That's 25% more locations than there used to be. Can you even imagine a world where there's only 4 Lincoln Mill locations? That feels like ages ago. We were all so young then. The Mill on 11th, located right alongside the 93.7 The Ticket Studios on O Street. Attention students and anyone else looking for a great deal. Sun Valley Lanes and Games has the ultimate weeknight special. For just $15.95, enjoy unlimited bowling, lucky putt mini golf, and laser tag. Flash your college ID at check-in to receive $2 off your admission. It's the perfect way to unwind Sunday through Thursday nights. Check out sunvalleylanes.com for hours and availability. Sun Valley Lanes and Games, located at 321 Victory Lane.
Lincoln's best place to meet, eat, and compete. Sun Valley.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call Wellman Plumbing at 402-434-2400 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-434-2400.
Hi everyone, Kendall Warnock with A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. If you're looking for an automotive repair facility you can genuinely trust, we would be grateful for the opportunity to earn your business repairing your vehicle. We have ASE master technicians and qualified to work on a variety of vehicles from Hondas to Porsches, Jaguars to Toyotas, and Chevrolets to Fords. We pride ourselves on customer service and relationships, and we would be grateful for the opportunity to serve you. Give us a call at 402-477-4660. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
The Link Grill Draft and Crafts is your spot in Southeast Lincoln for great food and drink. They're serving new menu items and a killer craft cocktail menu with your favorite draft beers. You'll love their pizza and new entree options. It's a great place to watch any live events, and they have music bingo every month. They have an aggressive loyalty program that rewards fans with 7% back on all purchases. Home of the Nebraska Power Hour every night from 8 to 9 p.m. Order online at the lnkgrill.com or stop in at 84th and Highway 2 today.
This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Hi, it's Joel Norman, the voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We're back here on Nuclear Heat talking some WWE wrestling here on 93.7 The Ticket, our WWE Week in Review show, as we break down the latest episodic television on WWE leading up to War Games this Saturday. Of course, there is a few things to look out for as a WWE fan this weekend. They have socials, apparently, because they pre-taped SmackDown, so you might get some spoilers there, but so you might want to watch out for that. If you are so inclined, or look out for that. I know different people, different strokes for different folks. So we'll kind of see what goes on there, but it should be exciting leading up to War Games, and hopefully that SmackDown is entertaining as well. Bit of a trouble as I'm getting the show ready. trying to see what the card is going to be necessarily. Certainly, we've got the Bloodline against the OG Bloodline. We have the women's War Games battle going on, and I think you're probably going to have Gunther and Damian Priest in there. Other than that, we don't know for sure if Cody Rhodes KO is there. They still kind of haven't ironed that out. You could do the new Intercontinental title picture since that got broken up this past week. You do LA Knights kind of new deal going on, but it's just kind of interesting. They don't have a whole lot of singles feuds necessarily lined up for it as of yet.
Yeah, and it's a little curious because so Cody Rhodes, does this thing on social media where he advertises all of his shows he's going to be on. Everybody was worried he's going to be the 5th member, right? But then people were saying he hasn't been advertising War Games. So that tells me he's not on the card. Which, I mean, after, we'll talk about it, but after this SmackDown, I kind of wanted them to, they did a great job on that. But yeah, it's really curious because they, outside of the 2 5-on-5s, they haven't really built up, they've kind of had things built up, but it feels like every show is just, it starts with it, ends with it. And you kind of got trinkles of it, in between the shows and things like that. So I'm a little curious, normally they have a card built up, maybe 1 or 2 matches. But right now they've got 2 and they normally do 5 per premium live event. So a little curious, that tells me they're going to really take their sweet time. Each match takes about an hour long. I wouldn't be upset with that. Sprinkle in, maybe The Rock coming back, something like that on that side. But you got to have one of your, men's world championships being defended. So I think it'd probably be the Gunther Damian Priest on that side.
Yeah. I think we will see that. And then again, from there, it's just hard to figure out where they're going because they're definitely kind of that Intercontinental title picture. Like I said, as kind of it feels like TV, can take care of it now. You don't need an ultimate blow off, payoff match quite yet. LA Knight's just getting into it with Shinsuke. So I don't know if that's necessarily going to be their tag team titles. Again, kind of just feels like television type, doesn't necessarily need to be defended or ironed out right now. So we'll just kind of we'll see. It's just different than what like years ago, and maybe like 8 or 9 years ago. I don't know exactly what time I'm trying to say, but when they used to have like the matches that would go on, like the premium live event matches, and then they'd just throw something in there at the end with some feuds that are kind of going on in the background. And I think we've just been so accustomed now to them having so many hot like feuds and things, and like so you could point to it, you could say, okay, this is what we're looking forward to. And there wasn't so many of those matches that were just like, well, you might have to just put this on before the match, or before the premium live event. So kudos to them for doing a good job, I suppose, in that department. That makes you wonder the one time that it doesn't seem to be quite lined up that way.
Yeah, and is this being advertised as Survivor Series War Games?
Is that so?
Because they're not, unless they do
there's not much of a Survivor Series.
There's not to it, which is a little surprising because, and I guess, I think you've mentioned it the last couple times, like the 5-on-5, brand versus brand, they've literally just they pick 5 people and they're like, all right, we're going to do this. So that's a little weird, but yeah, I mean, they have a chance to, make these matches. I mean, they can tell great stories in the match, like I said, they could be an hour long each, take up to 2 hours, and you sprinkle in a couple there. But I agree, the LA Knight one, you can't have that in there yet. I mean, they just, Shinsuke just came back, which is great, by the way. I wasn't here last week to talk about that, but I'm a little excited about that one. As an LA Knight fan, you give him somebody there, and then who's Braun Breaker even? Is that
so? Him and Sheamus were going at it, and then Ludwig Kaiser got involved.
Yeah, so
they could do it. It just doesn't feel like it's built up enough. You throw it in there, but
yeah. And then, I mean, this could have been the time where, the U.S. Women's Championship, it could have been the championship for that.
Yeah.
Which is what they do, a lot of times when they introduce titles, have it on that, but they're not even close to, the finals on that one. So yeah, I mean, yeah, they're keeping us guessing, I guess, when we tune in on Saturday night on that one. I mean, we'll just have to, we know the 2, and then we'll just have to see who else they put on that card.
Yeah, it's weird because it's you only know about 2 matches, maybe 2.5 if you figure that the Gunther one will be in there, but still pretty good cards. So
yeah,
I'll be tuning in.
It is, and the thing that's curious to me, you brought it up. I forgot about the Raw Men's Tag Team Championship. It's still the Judgment Day that has those, right?
Yeah, and they have
they're not really involved. I mean, outside of Liv and Raquel, they're for the first time, I think they're not really involved in a kind of main picture match there. So that's kind of telling of something, maybe.
Well, they could throw that one in there. They do technically owe the War Raiders a championship match.
Yeah,
but that just doesn't feel like that would even get sniff a premium live event.
Well, because that was confusing, because wasn't that supposed to be the last week? Like the War Raiders had won that match to get a championship match, right?
Yeah.
And then Finn just kind of threw Carlito and Dom into that. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm confused with everything here. So, they could sink that one in there. Like you said, they're probably just playing their card. 2 great matches, right now with the 5-on-5, the War Games. And then they're probably just thinking, hey, we'll just fill the rest of the time with this, and the fans will love it.
I said those are their headliners, so you're pretty good to sell from there. I don't know if they're needing, to really get some extra tickets out there to be sold, so they must be doing fine. Let's get into Raw before we get too far into this past week. Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez kicked off Raw. Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Candice LeRae, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Io Sky, Naomi all joined the ring before Rhea Ripley, mask on and all headbutts, and says War Game. So we kind of already went over that. Fantastic. I think as far as you have kind of War Games montages from now on, I think a mass Rhea Ripley yelling War Games and then headbutting Leah or Liv will make the cut for that. So that was fantastic. Then we had Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega against Chad Gable and Ivy Nile, of course, of LWO and American Made, respectively. An intergender match. Those are always kind of interesting. Ultimately, Mysterio hits the frog splash for the win. After the match, Chad Gable kind of turned on the Creed brothers. Not completely turned on them, but started slapping one of them around and tried to get them fired up. Just kind of strange. I thought if this Mysterio is one of those guys that can just beat you even if you are like trying to make your rise. So I guess maybe there's just a few wrestlers that just kind of have that, and it's like, okay, well, maybe that one doesn't hurt you as much. But it really felt like in this case that Chad Gable and Ivy Nile needed the win to kind of further escalate that rivalry. And I don't know if they're moving forward with it, and maybe they could, but it just didn't seem like it really goes anywhere with Rey and Zelina Vega winning.
Yeah, it really doesn't, because we've talked about this. We thought they had a great pairing with Chad Gable and the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile, American Made.
Yeah.
I thought they could do something else. It really just seems like they're just rehashing American Alpha or Alpha Academy all over again. Now he's pushing and shoving them, and they're kind of not liking that. They're losing. I mean, Chad Gable just last year was on a huge, he could be the guy to dethrone Gunther, and he was a top baby face, and they didn't pull the trigger, and then he was a victim of the Wyatt Six, which that concluded somehow. I mean, not in the best way. So it feels like they don't know what to do with him, and he's great in the ring. He's great on the mic. He can do comedy. He can be serious. I thought, with the Creed brothers, they had the look, they had everything they could do there, and they're not really doing much with it. They have him they have him losing to Rey Mysterio, which is, talk about one of the most influential wrestlers, maybe somebody that can be in the top 25. Rey Mysterio could be in there. But the guy's almost 50, his son's, in the WWE now doing things. He like you said, he really doesn't need to be winning, these matches here. And then, Ivy Nile needs something too, because she's still new, and Zelina Vega's been around. So it's a little bit of a head scratcher with them to go like that.
Yeah. I think you're right. And I'm worried about the same thing. I think they just kind of creatively don't have much more for Gable to do with breaking up Alpha Academy, or, he could have just even taken that name and added these other folks, because I don't think that, the leftovers of Alpha Academy is going to probably be around for next year. I mean, I just don't think it's a long-standing group. So just interesting the things that they've done with him for a guy that was ready for the push and can get wildly over. I mean, everything except for Shorty G, I think, has worked for him as far as gimmicks go. So, we'll have to see what they do there. Could be the old-fashioned 50-50 book, and they come back and get the win against Rey next week. So.
Yeah, it could be that. The biggest mistake they ever did for him was not make him be Kurt Angle's son.
Yeah,
they had it be the other guy, which made no sense, because Chad Gable was the Olympic, wrestler and looked like him kind of, and everything, he's essentially trying to be Kurt Angle to a point. And if they would have done that, I think that would have just projected his career right then and there. And instead it went to just Jason Jordan, I think is his name, who injured himself, and I think he's a producer backstage, but Chad Gable's the one that stayed around. That because I think he went into Shorty G right after that, and his career kind of boom, and he's trying to reinvent himself. But they had a potential there, like 8 years ago when they did that.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's had a few moments where they just wouldn't quite push him, to that next level. And I suppose he's a good enough act that if you can just kind of keep him where he is, he'll always kind of be entertaining and be able to fill a segment for you. But it just feels like you get tired of saying there's potential with certain guys.
Yeah.
And Chad's kind of getting that territory. It's like, it's still there.
Yeah.
It's still possible.
Yep.
But they don't seem to be, don't quite see it in him. Maybe as we do. Backstage, by the way, Finn Balor kind of has this awkward hyping of Judgment Day, and Dominic, particularly. You see a split coming, or is this more? I've seen a lot of online of maybe there's more of a further split. In my mind, this is probably just trying to get you, to kind of forget about that he's going to go out there and backstab Damian Priest to reincite that. That's what I think they're kind of headed toward, but they could be creatively lost here and want to do another split in Judgment.
Like a month ago, I would have told you no. But now the way they've kind of treated the Judgment Day as kind of a secondary group behind, the whole Liv and Dom storyline, I think you kind of got to, because Finn is lost right now. Finn, we just said, I forgot they were the tag team champions. He's still a champion, and all they're using him right now is for his backstage.
Not getting much TV time.
Yeah, that's all he's doing. And now he's just arguing with them. He's telling them, there's no leader, but, maybe listen to me at this time. He keeps telling Liv, hey, I know you're the champ, but, let me take over. And, he wants to be in charge of it and, all this stuff. Cause it's just hard because Finn Balor is a great talent, once again, kind of like that, great talent, all that stuff. Just right now, he's kind of just in the back burner of Judgment Day. And I think they need to tease, or they need to do a split. Cause I think that could be a great storyline there.
Yeah. Maybe give him something to do here. We'll see what they decide to do next with him. Then we get to the Intercontinental Championship. Sheamus and Braun Breaker. Ludwig Kaiser ultimately interrupts this with a clothesline to Braun Breaker, and then goes and hits Sheamus against the steel steps. So Sheamus, of course, the long-standing story of him trying to get the Intercontinental title to become the Grand Slam champion, and Braun Breaker, of course, defending his Intercontinental Championship. Good for Ludwig Kaiser. Right after this, Gunther basically told Kaiser that he has to be his own man. So it's kind of letting you know they're still a team, but they're maybe just kind of doing their own thing right now. And I think it would be good. Of course, I'm a huge Ludwig Kaiser fan, so I'm glad to see him thrown into a match with talents of this level, and the feud that seems it's kind of weird. I think Ludwig, they were kind of doing this similar thing couple months ago, and Ludwig might have got injured temporarily. So to bring this back, I think is good stuff.
Yeah, it is for Ludwig and Sheamus. Incredible in the ring. Braun, we talked about it, has all this potential. I'm not gonna lie, I was losing a little bit of interest in this beforehand, because I just feel like Braun, there's something wrong with this title run. I think it might be the fact that he lost it to Jay and then won it back seemingly, and then they just kind of moved off it. I don't know if that just kind of brushed it off the wrong way on there. But adding Ludwig in there, could create something. I mean, I'm gonna admit it, I forgot. I had to ask you, who was this feud, possibly going to be between. But when you think about it, I mean, Ludwig has the mic skills. Sheamus, of course, is all around, and I mean, Braun can do something there. So this could be a good triple, a good 3-man for that Intercontinental Championship match. They just got to be a little bit careful with how they handle these things.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know, Sheamus, obviously they can keep telling that story, and they almost seem to like to. So kind of keep him on ice with the Intercontinental title. But Braun, I think you're right. I think he needs a good run with the Intercontinental title. Let less, just kind of dropping it, getting back there, for him to really kind of feel like the new powered, champion that he is. So we'll kind of see what they do. Ultimately, I expect him to get out of this feud still the champion. But man, I think it would hurt to pass the belt around again a little bit more. So we'll see what they do. But I like the 3 involved. I think that they could make some banger of a matches, as Sheamus would like to say. By the way, Gunther, after telling Kaiser to be his own man, went and found Damian Priest signing some stuff backstage, attempted to attack him, and just got laid out. And then Damian Priest says, "You may be the general in the ring, but in the streets, I'm king." So bit of a really, really cheesy segment back there. But maybe this one's more for the kids. But in my mind, really, I mean, Gunther, after being pinned by Cody, I think the smart thing would have done is just kind of brush it off and come back and try to look like the confident guy that's they're going. Gunther's kind of like an identity crisis and really looking like a weak champion. Far from what I thought they would even think about doing with Gunther, where they had him positioned recently.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed in that. I'm glad you brought that up because I hated the segment. I don't know if it was last week or the week before where Damian was pretty much pointing that out and Gunther was kind of shell shocked, just
timid.
Yeah, just wouldn't do that. And I don't like this because this is a guy that held the championship, for 666 days. He's the next guy in line on there. And this is where you talked about it. The whole champion versus champion thing is going to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
And right now it's really hurting Gunther. And of course they want it to look like Damian Priest can, win the title. And there are people behind him. I would love to see Damian Priest try to win a title again, get it back. But right now they got a great thing with Gunther. And, I mean, he's kind of he's a heel, but he has his, babyface moments, where he respects the guy. He was giving Cody Rhodes the prop saying, hey, he beat me. That's not something you want to hear from Gunther. You want him to just be that dominant. No, I'm the best, there is. You're not stopping me right now. Damian Priest has, the edge and everything, that's going on here. And I'm going to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if they took the belt off of Gunther. I don't think they will, but if they did, I mean, they kind of told themselves, put themselves into that. With the storytelling for the last month they've had.
Well, and two, again, with Ludo Kaiser kind of waiting in the wings, they have an amazing story to get through there. It's kind of like the same thing we were saying with Damian Priest and Finn Balor, is that why wasn't that feud during his championship? That would have just really elevated his championship time. I think we got the same thing with Ludo Kaiser and Gunther, and so I hope that they do that while he's champion. Whether Kaiser comes out victorious, and I don't think Kaiser's necessarily. I love Kaiser. I don't think he's necessarily ready for the championship, but that's when time to get something that's like you don't have to kind of mess your way into gaining the attention of your audience. The audience is intrigued, just all automatically. So we'll see what they kind of do there quickly as we got to get through it. Raw War Raiders and Dominic Mysterio and Carlito tag is the first time to take on the War Raiders. War Raiders win, then they're attacked by Balor and McDonald. We talked briefly about the opportunity that they'll end up having against one another. I don't think there's too much to go over.
No, not really.
Then we had the Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed thing, which we already talked about. The only other stuff that maybe bears mentioning here from Raw, Alpha Academy versus New Day is set up for this week because a little bit of tension between Kofi and particularly Xavier Woods and Alpha Academy. He challenged them. So you continue that story again. Not much to say there. Alpha Academy maybe for a moment can get over on the New Day. I don't even know if that's a good look. So we'll kind of see what they do there, because that's what they've been to. They've had Kofi or Xavier, butting heads and losing. So maybe we'll get to a boiling point here. Then the only other thing that was very interesting was the White Six video showing Bo Dallas saying, "I never wanted this," particularly to the Miz. They're going after the Miz, but what was really intriguing is it looked like they were going in the direction of Bo Dallas mimicking Bray Wyatt. Which, as you peel onions out of peel the onion all the way back here, and he did a really good job of it. So it was kind of shocking, alarming to see. It felt like I was watching Bray Wyatt again.
Yeah, and this is what we're a little worried about. We didn't at first, we said he's got to be his own thing, but I agree. I thought he did really good, and they could go a little cheesy, down the road with this, of Bray. I don't want to say it, just speculation on there, but yeah, I thought it was a good video in there, and I think Bo Dallas is improving as the time go on, because the Wyatt Six, this is one of the biggest slowest burns they have going right now. They really need to turn it up, I think, a little bit, and they did on Monday.
Yeah, and as great as Bray Wyatt was, that was like all of his gimmicks too. It was just like you had to wait 9 months for a payoff or something. So hopefully they don't do that. And I'll say this again about them. I don't think they should have been laid out like they have been recently.
No.
Especially by a faction that's not necessarily over itself. So they need a little bit more interest coming back. If there's anybody to do it, it's The Miz. The Miz is definitely a good guy to work with. Try to get that over. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll quickly go over SmackDown and what we expect to see at Survivor Series War Games when we get back on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket.
Load up on meat and more this fall at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese at 84th and Havelock. This week's special through November 12th is $2 off all crackers, $2 off on grind, $3 off on salami, and buy one, get one free on stew beef. Limit of 2. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Highway 2 in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
You're counting on your team to win, so why not prove it? By placing your bets at Warhorse Sportsbook. Their win is your win. Put your money where your mouth is on nearly every sporting event. Use the Warhorse app to check odds and build your bets before placing your wagers in person at Warhorse Casino, including live in-game betting. No bets, no glory. Wagers may only be placed on Nebraska-based teams when played outside the state of Nebraska. Must be 21 or older to gamble. Gambling problem? Call 1-833-BET-OVER.
Hi, it's Joel Norman, the voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back from a quick break. This is Nuclear Heat here on 93.7 The Ticket as we're going through our WWE week in review. We already talked about the 5-man and women matches of War Games coming up. So if you missed any of that, you can head to theticketfm.com after the show and search out the podcast page. But let's get into SmackDown. We also went over Raw, so you can check that out as well if you missed it. But SmackDown this past week, the most recent viewing of wrestling that we've had, some excellent things and some things just to move along programming as well. We opened up with the Bloodline calling for Roman Reigns to surrender. Then we had the triple threat quarterfinal, of the U.S. title on the women's side. Bianca Belair against Blair Davenport and Chelsea Green. This is where footage of Jade Cargill being attacked, or the aftermath, I suppose, of it, drew Belair to the back, and Chelsea Green hits the unprettier for the win, and there's a big crowd reaction. People still behind Chelsea Green, so I thought this was a good way to get a fan favorite heel, I suppose you could say, and Chelsea Green the win. And who knows what's next for Blair Davenport, but at least you got some PV time.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. They have the opportunity to do the best thing and put the title on Chelsea Green. I know it's a new title. People are saying, it should be on someone legitimate. Chelsea Green is. She's a great act. They just haven't given her wins. I don't care if there's interference, all that. I think she'd make a great first United States championship. I got super excited because it looked like it was going to be the cookie cutter, Jade Bianca was going to win it. She was kind of overpowering everybody. And then the Jade thing happened, and then you're like, and then Chelsea Green wins it. And I was somebody that's like, yes, let's go. Yes. That's what they need to do.
Yeah. Chelsea Green, and especially in a tournament setting, just means if she wins, there's more Chelsea Green to come. So fantastic stuff there. Again, I talked about what Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill now, what that means for the women's match coming up as well. Then we have LA Knight taking on Santos Escobar. And before this matchup got going, Shinsuke, of course, who attacked LA Knight the previous week, had a promo air right before the match to a video promo to kind of maybe sidetrack LA Knight going into this one. Right as it ends, Santos Escobar attacks LA Knight. The match kind of goes along. Santos Escobar, a game competitor, and Shinsuke appears on the ramp. Escobar takes advantage, but it's not enough. LA Knight counters with a BFT for the win before he can get up and celebrate. Nakamura attacks LA Knight before he can get to his feet and leaves the ring. Nakamura, of course, kind of in this dark attire. I kind of compared it to Sting last week, maybe without the face paint. He's got a little face paint going on, but kind of a new look for Shinsuke Nakamura and a very good challenger for LA Knight and a U.S. title defense, I think, that needs it.
Yeah, Shinsuke to me reminds me of a Sith Lord from Star Wars. That's what he kind of, or like Anakin when he, went to the dark side there. But I think this could be great. I thought it was a fine match. Santos Escobar, he's good in the ring, but he's not somebody you particularly want to see LA feud with anymore. We've seen it a couple times, but Shinsuke coming back, you kind of forgot about him. He's somebody that had a lot of hype. They kind of dropped the ball with him a little bit on there, but he's great in the ring. I don't mind having to look up what he says on promo sometimes because he does them in Japanese, I believe, most of the time. on there. But I think this could be a really good match. A feud for LA Knight, something I think he's really needed because he's kind of been lacking since Logan Paul, essentially.
I was hoping with his new character with Nakamura that they were going to move past the comic book stuff, which I don't hate. I thought it was good. And it was, they only used it for a short amount of times when he was going after Seth Rollins week after week after week. But he'd never really won with it. So I kind of thought maybe they could keep, with this new look, maybe kind of refreshing his character, with that language barrier, maybe someone that's less, less of a speaker and somebody that's warned somebody. Because just to be quite frank, we've heard enough of Shinsuke's, threats that just don't come out. So that's the one thing I do worry about this feud is I think it's good for both sides. It's good for interest, but LA Knight certainly doesn't need to be dropped the title with his first interesting adversary. And Shinsuke, I don't think is maybe won since like 2019. It feels like. I mean, he just doesn't. They haven't pushed him too much as a singles competitor.
Yeah, I will say the one thing with Shinsuke always that intro. If they, the violin, I still remember that WrestleMania intro. That was phenomenal. That's always going to stick with me. He's got a great intro there, and he's good in the ring. But I agree with you. This looks like it is a feud he's probably not going to win because LA Knight has to keep it for a while because he's still over, with the fans, even though he hasn't had great feuds. Some stinkers in there. Just kind of against the true mid card. This is the mid card title, so I can't complain that much. But you'd expect him to throw him someone bigger in there, and they can do something with this Shinsuke match on there, but it is kind of hard because I don't think this is a believable guy that's gonna take it from him on there. So
we'll see what lies next there, but at least something exciting going on. We'll finish up with Cody versus KO, so we're not going necessarily in order, but I did want to hit quickly on Montez Ford against Tommaso Ciampa. Ford ends up getting the win, forever reminding people that he should probably have already had a 5-year singles run, but they still haven't pulled the trigger on that either. But of course, this is more about getting Tommaso Ciampa going off, and he attacks Ford after the win. And at that time, Angelo Dawkins comes out to make the save. Motor City Machine Guns come out to try to make the save as well. Johnny Gargano comes out. He tries to kind of play the peacekeeper in the middle, and Ciampa throws him down. So continuing that story between the 3 tag team titles. Is it interesting enough for you?
A little bit. I kind of want Gargano and Ciampa to both go heel, just kind of embrace it. Montez Ford, he's right. I mean, I think they need to split up. The Street Profits, they've really not done anything besides hold the title a handful of times. And Motor City Machine Gun, is that their name?
Yep.
And man, these new names are just really hard to remember. On that, I think they're good. They can talk there. They just haven't really done much in the ring, with their title sense. And I know they're having a bunch of backstage things. But in ring, I think all 3 teams can be high flying, and they can do something, put on some matches. They just need to put on some matches.
Absolutely. In ring is not the least of the worries with all these guys involved. And I think they're putting an interesting enough story. As we close it out, like we said, we don't know if Cody and KO would actually be for this Saturday. They almost intentionally put that off. It seemed like in this promo that they had, but it was fantastic. Cody goes out to the ring and calls out KO. Kevin Owens enters among the crowd. He's got a tuxedo shirt on.
I love it.
To kind of mock Cody for how important this was. But really just an argument from both sides that made a lot of sense, kind of breaking down what we were all thinking between the fight between the 2 former friends. And they look like they're ready to go to battle again. We're able to kind of keep them apart here, but this is fantastic. Especially compared to the kind of face versus face battle. They kind of knew they had to get through that to be able to tell this story. And this story feels very important. We've talked about, a lot of this Cody's run doesn't necessarily feel great because he doesn't have a credible opponent. And I don't necessarily think Kevin's going to win and beat Cody, but it sure is interesting.
Yeah, and it feels real. That's the big thing about it, is the things they were saying, the way they were going at it just felt so real. And they're hitting it great with this one. And they're keeping them apart for right now. They're not having them potentially wrestle on Saturday. I think they're going to keep it maybe, going for just a little bit here, but man, it's fantastic work. And we've talked about it. KO is one of the best when he's a heel, and, Cody's doing some great stuff here. So, I mean, they've got something burning. They just got to keep it going. And man, it really feels like these two guys just can't wait to get at each other.
Yeah. So it's fantastic. I think you add that into what's going on with War Games, and wrestling is in a very good spot. WWE wrestling, that is, in a really good spot as we head into the month of December. Pretty quick, we'll start to get into that building up toward WrestleMania.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That went by fast.
It's good. That's a good thing for WWE.
It is.
All right, that'll wrap it up for the show this week. Thanks once again to Augie for coming in while his Eagles go out there and get a win. Don't worry, they're one of the best in the NFL. And thanks to you for listening. We will be right back here on 93.7 The Ticket with Uncut with Kyle Perry. Nuclear Heat. We'll be back next week.